Welcome to White Pines Ranch.
Family owned and operated since 1958. I'm Megan.
I'm Annie. This video is to help prepare you for your trail ride
and give you a better understanding of how we do things here at the ranch. Here at the barn, there's 3 rules that we want you to follow whenever you're around the horses.
The first rule is no running.
Second rule is no screaming.
And the third rule is that you must stay 10 feet away from horses unless invited closer by a barn crew member.
When you are riding, helmets are required for all guests, including adults.
Helmets are located inside the barn. We have sizes extra small to large so you can find one that fits you appropriately.
The first thing you want to do to ensure that your helmet fits correctly is make sure that the letter is at the back of your head. Once it's on your head, go ahead and buckle the straps underneath your chin. Those should buckle with enough room that you can fit 1 to 2 fingers between your chin and the strap. Next, make sure that your helmet doesn't fall into your eyes or back on your head by shaking your head no. If it stays in place, then your helmet fits securely.
After you get your helmets, you will head outside and form a line in between the 2 shelters. Do not enter the shelters until you are invited in by the barn crew.
When you've been invited into the shelters, we'll ask that you walk in a single file line as well as staying in the middle of the shelters. When you're in the middle of the shelters, you're 10 feet from both rows of horses. Once you're in the shelters, then you'll be able to pick your own horse. When you're picking your horse, just stand right in the middle of the shelters and point at the one that you would like to ride, and then barn crew will bring that horse out for you. When you're picking your horses though, just know that we might point out horses that are suitable for adults as well as horses that we only want children to ride. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the horse, we just want all the horses to be comfortable while they're working. After you picked your horse, one of the barn crew members will bring your horse out for you. When that happens, one of the first things we're going to tell you is your horse's name. That's because we might not know your name while you're riding, so if we need to tell you anything on the trail, we're going to be able to call you by your horse's name. This is Sissy. She's going to be helping us out today. Once we brought your horse out for you, then you can mount your horse or get on your horse from the left-hand side. To do that, you're going to stand at the end of the saddle pad and then place your right hand on the back of the saddle. Then, you're going to bring your left foot forward into the left stirrup. This is easiest if you're facing the same direction as the horse. Next, you're going to take your left hand and hold on either to the horse's mane or the saddle horn, whatever is most comfortable for you. Then you'll bounce on your right foot and pull yourself up. Once you've pulled yourself up, make sure that you seat yourself nice and gently into the saddle, and then also check that you're in the middle of the saddle. After that, we're going to go ahead and we'll adjust your stirrups for you. When we're adjusting your stirrups, make sure that you bring your foot forward onto the horse's shoulder. That allows us to adjust your stirrups without getting our fingers pinched. After we've adjusted your left side, we'll also adjust your right side so your stirrups are even and comfortable for you. When you're placing your foot back into your stirrup, make sure that your foot is only into it, to the ball of your foot, and then you also want to stretch your heels down away from the horse's body. After your stirrups, we'll also hand you your horse's reins. Your reins are your steering wheel and they're your brake pedal while you're riding, so you never want to let go of them while you're on your horse. When you're holding onto your reins, there are 2 knots. Make sure that you have your hand below the second knot like you have an ice cream cone, so your thumb is right below the knot. Once you have your reins, rest your hand on the horse's mane. That's what we call the neutral position. So that's where your hand isn't giving the horse any signals and is allowing the horse to do their job. After we've helped you onto your horse, we'll also have to help the rest of the riders onto their horses, so you'll have to wait just a moment before we head out onto the trail. When that happens, you'll just have to ask your horse to walk forward and steer them into a single file line.
Now you need to know how to start and stop your horse when you're out on the trail. To start and make your horse go forward, your hand is going to be in the neutral position we talked about previously. Next, you will gently squeeze the sides of your horse with your heels. Once they start going, you will take the pressure off and stop squeezing. To stop your horse, you're going to take the reins and pull straight back to your chest. Once your horse has stopped, you will put your hand back in the neutral position. So to start, and stop. Now you need to know how to steer your horse. To make your horse go in a certain direction, you will put the reins in the hand of the direction you are going. You will also put your arm out forward and your elbow should be straight. So to go to the right, the reins are in my right hand, my arm is forward, my elbow is straight, and I will pull to the right. To go to the left, my arm is forward, my elbow is straight once again, and this time I will pull to the left.
After that, there's just a few more things you'll need to know before you head out on the trails. First, while you're on your horse, sometimes your saddle might shift off center. And while you're riding, we want your body and your saddle to stay right in the middle of your horse. The way that you can tell if everything is in the middle is if you look here at your horse's mane, the saddle horn, and your belly button. You want all three of these things to be in a straight line. If you notice that your belly button or your body is off center, just scoot your body back in the middle. But if you notice that your saddle horn or your saddle is off center, the way that you can adjust it is you'll take one hand and put it on the seat of your saddle. Then you'll take your other hand and hold on to the front. After that, you're going to stand up in your stirrups, and then you're going to pull with your hands and stomp with your foot the direction you want that saddle to go. So I'm going to stand up, one hand on the front, one hand on the back, pull, and stomp. When you're shifting your saddle, make sure that you're always holding on to your reins. And when you're shifting it, one thing that can make it easier to adjust it is if you have your hand on the back of the left side to move your saddle right, or the back of the right side to move your saddle left. That will give you better power and leverage to shift your saddle over. After that, while you're on the trails, sometimes your horses will stop and try to snack. But while they're working, we want them to stay focused on their job. So if your horse stops and puts their head down to grab a snack, what we want you to do is hold your arm out straight and pull straight up towards the sky. If you're still having trouble pulling their head up, what you can also do is squeeze with your feet and ask them to move forward. Because if they're moving forward, it's harder for them to snack. Next, while you're out there, we might encounter some hills. If we go uphill or downhill, we want you to shift your weight forward to go up or backwards to go down. That gives you better balance as well as giving your horse better balance.
Out on the trail, we ride our horses in a line. This means that you cannot pass the horse in front of you, and you also cannot ride next to anyone. The third rule of the barn is that you must stay 10 feet away from the horses. This also applies with the other horses in the line when you're out on the trail ride, so you must maintain good spacing. If the horse in front of you stops, make sure you also stop your horse to maintain that spacing.
To check your spacing when you're out on the trail, you should look in between your horse's ears. When you do that, you should be able to see all 4 feet of the horse in front of you. But if you can only see the horse's tail or the rider's helmet, that means you need to stop your horse until you have that 10 feet of spacing.
Your horse might stop when we're out on the trail. Before you squeeze them and ask them to go forward, check and see if their tail is up or if you hear running water. They might be going to the bathroom. If they are, wait until they're done and then give them a nice, gentle squeeze to move them forward.
At the end of the trail ride, the staff member who's leading the ride will stop their horse. At that time, everyone else will also have to stop their own horses, making sure they're maintaining that 10 feet of space. Once everyone is stopped, you'll have to wait just a moment while a staff member comes and takes hold of your horse. At that time, we'll also ask the horse behind you to come up next to you. That's the only point on the trail ride that you should be next to another horse. Both riders then will be getting down on the left-hand side of the horse, so that does mean one person will get down in between the two horses and one person will get down on the far side of the horses. The first thing you're going to do to dismount or get off your horse is split the reins apart between the 2 knots and hook them on the saddle horn. That keeps the reins from falling onto the ground while we're leading your horse in. Next, you're going to take your right foot out of the stirrup, and then you'll keep both hands in front of the saddle while you stand up on your left leg and swing that right leg over behind you. Once you're at this point, stop for a second and lay your stomach down on the saddle and kick your left foot out. Once both feet are out, then you can safely slide down onto the ground. Once you're on the ground, wait just a moment while the other rider finishes getting off, and then we'll have you both walk forward away from the horses. The person in the middle will have to duck underneath the staff member's arm. Once you're both off your horses and safely stepped forward, we'll have you walk right along the fence line to take your helmets back to the barn. At that time, the staff member will take the horses back to the shelters.
Thanks for coming to White Pines Ranch.
Enjoy your trail ride, and we hope to see you back again soon.
Be sure to stop by the ranch house to inquire about summer camp, outdoor education, and weekend retreats.